Welcome to NeverTheLess podcast with Bidemi Mark-Mordi, a show dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Today, you would learn how to discover your essence and live more powerfully.
Hello and welcome once again to the NeverTheLess show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. My name is Adeshawa Greg Igudaro, and in this month of March, we have been talking about pursuits. Remember that when we started this series, I had jokingly, and I will not be surprised if you actually heard in this month that it is time to march forward or it is time to move forward. But I hope that throughout the series you have been able to see something in your journey. I mean, this month actually wraps up the first quarter for you, so it's a very good time to go back again, reflect, discern, discover, deploy, and determine what God is asking you to do or showing you or has shown you that is the next steps for you in your journey in Him. All right, so last episode we spoke about the reward of pursuit or the proof of pursuit, and in this episode BMM is going to be speaking with us, showing us, telling us, explaining to us something called the compounding effect of pursuit, because we are always in pursuit. Welcome, BMM.
Hi everyone, thank you for keeping the faith with us. It's the last episode of the month of March apparently, and we're looking at pursuit, and today indeed we're looking at the compounding effect of pursuit. The gist or the kernel of today's episode has to do with how, because we pursue or the expansion and the enhancements that happen around us, in us and around us because of our pursuit. So this is about the compounding effect. How, because what the effect of your pursuit has on the next thing and the next person, and all the way like that till a day comes possibly when we stand before God our Maker to give our render account of our journey here on earth. So when we're talking, as we're looking at the compounding effect of pursuit, I want you to see cycles. I want you to see enhancement and growth. I want you to see elevation, and I want you to see templates. Because in the end, that is what it is. But before we go into all of that, let me begin from somewhere, from the last episode. I talked about the transformation that happens even in the one who is in pursuit. Yeah. It's a compounding effect. And what I didn't do was I didn't break down for you how that happens. When you find yourself in the place of pursuit and you're doing so well, and we're now looking at results and rewards, one of the first things you will see, like I told us last week, is that there is a transformation in you who's doing the work of pursuit. Yes. But what does this transformation look like? This transformation creates new habits for you and gives you new behavior. I talked, I think it was in episode 3, I was telling us about how God flipped the definition of disappointment and said no disappointments, just new experiences. That is something that has elevated the way I look at disappointments going forward. That is something that has happened to me in the course of my own pursuit. A new habit has been formed, and whenever I'm standing in the face of disappointment these days, I quickly say to myself, not disappointed, open to new experiences. Not disappointed, open to new experiences, because I'm reframing the situation for myself so that I can continue to do what it is that I have been called to do. Right. So the first compounding effect is your own behavior change. Your own behavior is bound to change. You find yourself picking up what we call success habits. Right. You pick up success habits. You find out that you talk less. If you don't need to talk, you are not speaking. You find yourself doing things because now you have been, you've been conditioned, if you like, to think how to ensure that that which has been committed into your hands delivers on, to God the glory that is meant to deliver. So that's the first thing I wanted to take out of that. Now, when you think about creating new behaviors, it also gives you the opportunity to unlearn. Because you don't just create new behavior. You have to first take a look at what it is, what your behavior was in the scenario, and determine whether that is a behavior you want to continue to go with. If it is not enhancing or adding to, adding to what it is that you do, then what should happen is that you begin to ask yourself, what do I need, or how do I change this behavior so that the transformation that should come to me first will come to me. Do you see that?
Absolutely.
So it's not just, oh, I now create new habits. There is a place for unlearning. There is a place for unlearning, and then there is a place for learning. All of this is significant growth. Growth that would never have happened were you not in pursuit. Oh my God, there are too many things I know today that I only know because of the different trajectories God puts me on at different times and the things He calls me to pursue. There are things I now know that sometimes when maybe I'm not in that specific mode, that I find myself using them, I'm like, how did I even know that? I knew that because in the season when I had to learn it, it was all that I needed, or it was one of the big things I needed to be able to execute on my pursuit in that season. So don't forget that it gives you the opportunity, or affords you the opportunity to develop, to transform, to create new habits, and to reassess behavior and bring about change behavior. So you are the first beneficiary of the compounding effect of pursuit. You are the first beneficiary of the compounding effect of pursuit, unless you're not pursuing the right thing, unless you're not pursuing how you ought to pursue. You are the first one that gets better. So when people, for instance, say to me, thank you, I say to them, thank you, because you are there, I have gotten better. And that's something we must never forget, because when you hit the rough patch where things are tough, the tendency is you begin to tell yourself lies, or allow the devil to fill your mind with the lies that what you do does not matter. Here's what I want you to remember. Even if it doesn't matter for another person, it matters for you. What you do does matter. So that's my first take on this episode.
You know, as you were sharing, it just means that at every point, make sure you're on the right trajectory. At every point. And it takes me back to the pursuit by compendium. Even if it doesn't make sense, I like that. If it doesn't make sense, it makes sense to God, and it matters to you, no matter what it looks like. And so it is important that we actually create this compounding effect, if I'm correct.
Actually, I don't even think that you create the compounding effect. I think the compounding effect is a natural consequence of pursuit. I mean, I can't create anything. I've never been to Australia. It doesn't matter how hard I try. I can't create impact in Australia from here because I'm limited. But the compounding effect of being able to not just teach, write a book, put it on Amazon. There are people in Japan who have read the book. I've never been there, who have read some of my books. You know, there was a time that I got my cut back from Amazon, and you know, they would show you where, and I saw Japan, and I'm like, oh my God, who buys? You know, you see in the Middle East that people are buying. So you know that it gives you the ripple effect is that it gives you the capacity to serve greater beyond what you would have been able to do by yourself. That's why, you know, when I talk about the different ways of pursuit, you want to take them seriously. You know, maybe we didn't talk about it. Maybe in another series we'll talk about it. The fact that whatever you pursue doesn't need to be just in the one stream. 4 streams of impact is what I call it. So you don't create the compounding effect. It is a natural consequence of the fact that you have pursued and pursued well.
Wow. So we talk about templates. In the compounding effect of pursuits, and once you have a template, is there a tendency that you don't put in as much?
Let's even begin from repeated cycles. Because what happens is we pursue by principles, everything that you excel at, you excel by these principles and the strategies that God is giving you to excel. And what I have found is if you've succeeded once, you can succeed again and again and again, as long as you adhere to the principles that you have been given. So another compounding effect of being able to pursue and pursue right is the repeated cycles. You find that your life goes like that. Maybe I find that I live a 5-year burst. So in the pursuit of the things that God has called me to pursue, it's a 5-yearly cycle. Once I get to the end of 5 years, something figurative, or no, not figuratively, something important shifts. There is an important shift in how I have been running. But what I find is that the last cycle becomes the foundation and the base upon which this new shift begins to unfold. So compounding effect is you just need to go through a cycle once. Whether your cycles are yearly or they're 3 years, per cycle, or 10 years per cycle. If you finish one cycle, it forms the base for the next thing that God is going to build. And that is compounding effect. Because to come back to what you were saying, when you get to that place, what you find is that you don't expend as much time for you to be able to take off. Because you already have skeletally, you already have a framework that works. So because you have a framework that works, it may be, your new level may be expanded, it may be a tad more scientific than the previous one was, but principles are principles. And life is lived and excelled on or excelled in by principles. So as long as you have the principle right in at the first level or the first cycle, you can be sure that your success is going to continue to compound. Your success is going to continue to compound. You will never find yourself at a day where you just fell flat on your face. I'm not saying that every time you get 100%, but you can be sure that if you've succeeded before, you can always succeed. Now let's even step back and look at the mindset behind that. Look at the strength, the confidence that builds in a man who succeeded before. When people say to me, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I am so scared, I say, do it this once. And I have found and I have proven that every time a man succeeds once, the second time they are not as scared. The third time they are not as scared. The fourth time they are not. Everyone comes with its peculiar, fear and afraid. I'm afraid, spirit and all of that. But what you find is after a while you say to yourself, I did it before. If we go back to the David's account in the Bible that I was in 1 Samuel 17 that I alluded to in the last episode. David came to Goliath and Goliath said, to King Saul and said, let me fight this uncircumcised Philistine. And Goliath said, you are but a small boy. He's a man, he's been a man of war from his youth. And David said, but I killed a bear with my bare hands. I know he's not a bear, but I mean, an enemy is an enemy, whether he looks like a lion or a bear, or he looks like Goliath. The same thing ought to happen to them. Take them out. And if I've taken out a bear and I've taken out a lion, surely I can do this. David also called on the template that he had used. He said, I did not kill the bear by myself. I did not kill the lion by myself. The Lord delivered them into my hands. And the same way he delivered them into my hands, he will deliver this uncircumcised Philistine into my hands as well. Can you see the compounding effect? And from that point on, David was a king in Israel that never lost a battle. All his kingship, he fought so much that his son, his son right after him, Solomon, did not fight one battle in his kingship. Because he already had the template. And all he needed to do was gather his men, and trajectory upon trajectory upon trajectory. And the thing is, every step of the way, as much as was humanly possible, he transacted in integrity. Someone will say, what about Bathsheba? Even in that, when he came to himself, he transacted in integrity. So, I guess the compounding effect of pursuit means that you are the first partaker. The Bible says the husbandman is the first partaker of the harvest. Whatever you allow God to release and unleash you to, you will be the first partaker. You are the first partaker, and that is compounding. I don't even want to now, maybe when we come back, let's look at the ripple effect in our children and look at the ripple effect in those around us, and just continue to look at it. When you see the ripple effect, which is really what a compounding effect is about, you would not contemplate not living the life that God has called you to.
Wow. All right, so we'll be right back after this short break. We are talking about the compounding effect of pursuit, and we are saying that there are some things that will just keep coming on top of themselves. And so if there's something you struggled with in the first time, in the first season of your pursuit, once you're able to cross that bridge, you will consistently, in God and by the leading of God, come to that place of success again and again and again. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. God bless you.
A world filled with many fears and discouragement, life often becomes a burden. For those who know the way, life is just simple. Do not worry, you're not alone on this life's journey, as Bidemi Mark-Mordi shares powerful insights and principles from her everyday work and life experiences in her book, NeverTheLess. NeverTheLess is a book designed to encourage and equip you to face life with courage, hope, and determination. Get a copy of NeverTheLess and other books written by Bidemi Mark-Mordi, like The Wisdom of the Seed, Honor, The Theology of Work, and so much more from a bookstore nearby, or call 080-905-63555, or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order. I guarantee you will make it, nevertheless.
Welcome back to the NeverTheLess show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. I'm with BMM in the studio. My name is Adishawa Godaro. And before we went on that break, we're talking about the compounding effects of pursuit. And BMM has stressed, I don't even know if she's stressed enough. She has stressed on templates and repeated cycles. But as she was speaking, I was thinking about the word systems. I was thinking about the word patterns, and I just want her to drill a bit.
Yes, because when you it's great to be back, and thank you for keeping the faith with us. When you pursue and you pursue well, you distill systems. I find that even when you do not intentionally begin this journey of I want to distill a system. Is it it's a force of habit. Over time, as long as it is what you consistently do, it becomes a system that all you need to do is tweak so that you have a template or a standard operating procedure. Now what I find in that place is that what is system? Maybe what to do, this is what I should be saying to you, is why most of us will stumble on systems, because we're in pursuit consistently. It bears emphasizing that we should deliberately distill systems. Now, when someone will ask me what's a system, I heard a very wise man a long time ago say that systems is an acronym for save yourself time, energy, and money. Save yourself some time, energy, and money. System. So when you put systems together, when we get to the conversation about compounding effects, your execution time is cut in half, sometimes less than half, because you now have a system. Do you get it? So that's the reason why systems are important. And because we're children of God, we also want to pay attention to our patterns. Our systems are different from our patterns. Our systems refer to how we do the things that we pursue. Our patterns determine, like I talked about, I have distilled or realized that my cycle is 5 yearly. So every 5 years, once I'm coming to the end of a 5-year cycle, I can tell that something fundamentally is going to shift. So I begin to pray, I begin to psych myself, I begin to talk to myself. It's going to shift, it's going to shift, it's going to shift, it's going to shift. Every time what is shifts into is something I have not seen before, or it is an enlargement of what it is that I have been doing. Helps me to play at another level. Funny enough, sometimes takes me back to some of the things I thought I had moved away from. But if you pay attention to your pattern in pursuit, you can discern before it hits you what is about to happen. Because see, when we talk about the compounding effect of pursuit, we're talking about what you can now say. We're talking about expertise. We're talking about expertise that you have garnered over the years based on your experience. And that doesn't come cheap. It reminds you of something I saw. A guy came and said, there's a hole somewhere is leaking water, and want you to help us fix it. And he takes a look at it and he said, I'll get it done. And in 30 minutes he was done. And they said, what's your bill? And he writes a bill for $1,000. And the guy screamed and said, what did you do? You only spent 30 minutes. How do you charge me $1,000? And he said, oh no, I charge you $50 for the work. The rest of the $950 is for the experience by which I did it in 30 minutes. Do you get that? So when we're talking about the compounding effect, we're looking at what you now become remember that when we started in January, I said that every man's journey in God is a be and become journey.
Yes.
Because by the time you are pursuing compounding effect, you are coming to legacy, where you are now thinking about what am I leaving behind. When we started, we said at the beginning in January, we said write your epitaph. How do you want to be remembered? When you get to compounding effect, you are no longer in charge of how you want to be remembered. How you want to be remembered is already been distilled.
Right.
And that's the reason why paying attention to our patterns is critical to ensuring that last thing looks like what it ought to look like.
Yes, absolutely. And it takes me back to the very first episode in this series. To become conscious of the journey, because I know that sometimes we get in pursuit and it's like not like a something you stumble on. So you stumble on certain assignments, you stumble on certain things, and then after 3 years you're seeing that I need to repeat this thing. What you now need to do is come back, sit down, and begin to say, how did I start? So yes, it started as an instruction, I didn't know what to do. Then after the instruction I did it. So you need to go back, what was it?
So what it is you cannot continue to stumble. After some time, you should become a professional.
Don't stumble and fall.
Yes, it's not every time you stumble and you fall. I tend to use the expression, I don't know what I'm doing a lot. But if you're close to me, you know that I know what I'm doing within the capacity of my history in what I have done so far and what I have learned and the development I have taken over time. I do know what I'm doing. So when I use the expression, I do not know what I'm doing, I'm not saying that I'm empty. I'm just saying that what else is new that God wants to do. I may not have I may not have the 411 in the moment. But after I have gone through one cycle and another cycle, definitely, please don't continue to stumble. It shows you as unserious. As a matter of fact, though, you would never finish a second cycle, if you did not learn anything from your first cycle. So therefore, another compounding effect of pursuit are the lessons that you distill along the way. A few weeks ago, someone asked me, as we were rounding off 5 years of a cycle, someone asked me, she said, what is different? And I said, what is different is when I started this particular cycle, I was alone. As I'm starting the next cycle, I'm not alone. That's one of the things that are different. Then they asked me, say, what is the same? And I said, what is the sin is that I still don't know what the details would look like. Do you see that?
Yeah.
These are lessons I had distilled. I can't remember what else I was doing. I think it was one of the episodes either in February or in January where we're talking, and I said, somebody asked me, what is the lesson you've learned? And I said, the lesson is that nothing ever remains the same.
Yes.
Nothing ever remains.
No.
Yes. Nothing ever remains the same. Nothing ever remains the same. So over time, I have all these things that I now know. Over time, lessons that I have distilled just by putting my hands to this plow and waking up every day to say, this is where I have been manifested, and this is what I'll continue to do until something changes. Now, when you're on this journey, sometimes you need to know that when all when you find yourself in that place where some of it is not clear, here's something that maybe is a tip I will give you. Make sure you are someone in pursuit who writes. I'm not someone who journals, but I write. So it's not like, oh, I don't date them. Someone was looking through my notes and saying, you don't date them. And I'm like, I'm not journaling. But I write my lessons down. And I was saying to someone last week that when I die, whenever it is, my children will need a truck to carry my notepads. And they will find it difficult to burn my notepads. And someone is like, you are still writing it in longhand. If I don't write it in longhand, what's the proof that I did it? Right. So do you get it? So the lessons we'll learn over time on how to deal with a difficult boss, on how to deal with a difficult employee, on how to source for money for something. All of those. That's why when people retire or they claim to retire, I say to them, from now you don't retire, begin to sell experience. Because experience sells.
Yes.
A lot of people want to do it, but they have no clue. If you can give them the benefit of your experience, you cut their journey in half. That's what mentoring is about, isn't it?
Yes.
So these are some of the compounding effects of pursuit.
As I was speaking about stumbling, I think that we should speak to spontaneity.
Yes.
And that is something that I actually see a lot. You're just spontaneous. It's good to be spontaneous. It can be interesting, but it can put one in trouble on this journey.
I think that when we call it spontaneity,
we're trying to be sophisticated.
The real word when you're in pursuit is presumption. We cannot presume, because as beautiful and as likely as it is that your cycle, the things you learned in the previous cycle, will impact positively on your next cycle, there are still things in your next cycle that are going to be brand new to you. So you can't presume. You see that thing we talked about, that we are in pursuit of one, not in pursuit of faith.
Yes.
We're in pursuit of God. That relationship is how we pursue well. To check presumption, you have to always go back to say to him, I heard you, I've seen this, but should I do it this way?
Right.
That is very important. Otherwise, you find yourself just thinking that, okay, I was dancing on one leg the last cycle. Maybe I need to continue to dance on one leg. And this time you were not even supposed to dance. So clarifying is still important, even though this thing has compounded and you now have lessons, you have templates, you have systems, you have distilled patterns, and all of that, and all of that, and all of that.
So that means on this compounding effect journey of pursuit, we must have grown in wisdom.
Oh yeah. That's the point of lessons. Lessons help us to grow in wisdom. So yes, you must grow in wisdom. That's part of it.
Wow. So Bidemi, is there anything that you'd like to share with us?
Yes. The first one is I bring you a guarantee that if you pursue well, your pursuit will succeed. So as uncertain as the journey can be sometimes, because we are in pursuit of someone, I need you to never forget he's at the other end with his arms outstretched, waiting for you to run into them. So you are bound to succeed. What I would encourage you to do is make sure that your bottom line thinking is down pat. You understand what your bottom line is. When you understand what your bottom line is, it means that your definition of success probably would differ from my definition of success. And that's fine, because it doesn't make you more successful than I am, neither does it make you less successful than I am. It just means that your definition is different, or your bottom line is different from my bottom line. Finally, I alluded to the issue of legacy at some point in this episode, and I want to go back to it. I want you to understand that in dispensation, God is not writing a brand new Bible. And I want you to please never forget that the unbeliever does not read the Bible in book form. The unbeliever reads you. You are the Bible that they read. So if you want God to be able to take glory, and you want God to be put on, God and kingdom to be put on display properly, you have no excuse. You have to pursue, and you have to pursue well. But don't forget, like I said, and I'll say it one more time, you are guaranteed for success. You will win. I promise you, you will win. I saw someone today, and she said there are only two things that can happen. I win and I win. So I promise you, because you're in pursuit of a person, you will win and you would win.
Thank you so much. I don't know how this episode has helped you, but would like to hear from you. So please do write to us. Leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Leave us a comment on social media. Go to BMM's page and follow her. Tell her this episode helped me. We want to be able to read your story. Like you said, we're in pursuit of one, and there's always reward. And so we want to see that indeed this is doing something useful for you, because we believe that we win and we win.
And those social media handles are Bidemi Mark-Mordi. My name, all one word, Bidemi Mark-Mordi. So whether you go to Twitter, you go to Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, even on LinkedIn, it is the same name, Bidemi Mark-Mordi. Till next month, when we bring you another interesting series. Thank you so much for joining the Nevertheless show with BMM or with Bidemi Mark-Mordi. We will see you next month if Jesus tarries. Remember that if you discover purpose, you will live powerful, and that takes an embracing of the superpower that is within you. Thank you so much, Adeshawa Greg Igodaro, for doing this with me. Next month, like I said, we will be back with another interesting series. God bless you, and may those blessings manifest. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Nevertheless. For more information and resources, call 08090563555. Don't forget, discovering your purpose helps you live more powerfully.